Hi, this is Christine with Where's Watson. I'm in the Red River College Truck Transport Electrical class with Shelby and Dan. And they're going to show us around today to talk a little bit about what they teach and the kinds of tools and techniques and teaching tools that they use for the class. So here's Dan and Shelby.
Hi, I'm Dan Banfield and Shelby here. We're here to sort of show you around what we do in our level 2 electrical class as far as our transport truck related electrical is on some of this the equipment that we work on. So if we come on over here, we can just sort of show you where we really start in our program. We start with building some of our real basic circuits, building series and parallel, and then of course getting them to build the circuits, diagnose the circuits, and do the math calculations on them. So we sort of get them to use our Ohm's law and get familiar with all that stuff. From that point, we want to progress them into sort of doing some wiring on the trucks. So we would progress them into some of the lighting circuits that would be on our normal vehicles. And this little simulator board is kind of nice in that it will show us all the different lights that we would find on a normal system, on our trucks or our automotive systems. So we can set up for a high beam, low beam. We can actually work our brake lights, and then we can override our brake lights with our signal stat. Is basically how we have to teach them how to wire up the signal stat so that everything works properly. So that's sort of the next sort of level that we get to, is getting them to understand how to build all these circuits and build and using relays in order to make these circuits work. And then what we would do is we'd sort of progress from that point into sort of looking at some of the electronics. And what we'll do is we'll start talking about electronics as far as replacing a lot of our components nowadays with electronic components so that we're getting rid of a lot of our moving parts. And what we're going to show you here is just some of our basic stuff like our transistors and our diodes and our Zener diodes, and we sort of show you how we will integrate these all together to try and sort of show you how we get our charging systems and some of our electronic circuits to work. Now here's where we start off is by what we call a program called Arduino. Arduino is a programmable computer chip that we can purchase. It's actually a nice little, cheap little kit that can be bought here. It's actually quite amazing for $40 everything that you get in this kit. And it's amazing what can be built with these programs. Now what we start with is the real basic program in the Arduino is just a simple bulb flash. And so what we do is we actually set this up so that we will get a flashing bulb. Now what we need to do is we find our program. So we would set up a program on what we call a sketch. Okay, and the sketch is really what we use to program the memory in the computer chip. Now here what we have is one of the most basic setups right there. So if you'll notice what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the timing on that light. Right now if you'll notice, it's set up for a loop so that it comes on for 5 seconds and then goes back off for 5 seconds. Now if I just take and I just change this one number here, I'll change it from a 5 to a 1, and then I'll just run that sketch. It'll actually reprogram this thing so that now it's flashing 5 seconds on and 1 second off. So all these different chips can be programmed in a number of different ways to make them do different things. So now you can see what I've done is I've reprogrammed that light so that it's in a different loop. I'm going to just change that quickly back to the 5000, and that will reprogram it, and it will go right back to the 5000. So now what we've done is we've taken a few different projects and we sort of expand on that. Now you'll see that some of these sketches get a little bit more intense, get a little bit more sophisticated, but of course that depends on the programming that we're doing here. So this is a sketch that's a little bit more involved, so there's quite a bit more in there. So here's just sort of an example of some of the more advanced projects that we've put together. Here's again, this is what we call the sort of like the old Mustangs and the old Thunderbirds, where we set up for sequential tail lights and signal lights. So we've sort of programmed this computer to light those bulbs in a certain way. This one here is basically the same thing as your backup alarm on your vehicle, right? So we got a motion detector right there, and as we go out, it will actually measure the distance, and it will even give us an alarm if we get too close. So it's sort of simulating the backup alarms and backup cameras that we've had on some of our vehicles. And this one here is something that I set up here for a Bluetooth design. And this is sort of for a command start. So normally what I do on this machine is I just use it manually to work my starter. Okay, but what we're going to do here is we're going to use this program using the computer chip, and we're going to now hook this up so that I can actually do this through my phone. Oh, where's my phone? This thing on, sorry, my phone's over here.
Shelby, while he's getting his phone, tell me a little bit about why you like truck transport and why you chose it as a career.
I chose this as a career because you always know you're going to have a job. There's always work to be done. Trucks are always moving, construction's always going, and it's a great industry to get into. The people you meet are fantastic and very talented, and you can do a lot of things with it.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Okay, so now I've got this set up. So basically what I do is I get an app on my phone, and I can now use this to communicate with the unit, and we can now actually use the phone as a, so we've set up a Bluetooth. Now what I do with this program is you've noticed it's actually cranking for a little bit too long. So what we'll do is we'll take this and we'll reprogram it, and we'll reprogram it so that it cranks for the 1 second. We do that on purpose as a sort of a teaching tool for them. Okay, and then from there, basically what we do is this electronics now takes us into being able to understand our charging system. So in a normal vehicle, we need to make sure our battery stays charged. So we have our alternator to do that, and what controls the alternator is a voltage regulator, which is all controlled by electronic components, as sort of stuff that we've been talking already. And then another thing that we do in our courses is the starting system. So once we've sort of made sure that our batteries are charged with our charging system, then we can make sure that our vehicles will start. And that's sort of the gist of what we do in our course here.
That's wonderful. Dan, tell me a little bit about the impact of the pandemic on your teaching and how you've been able to adapt and be creative in delivering the program, even with the health regulations in place.
Well, it definitely has been a little challenging. At front, it was a lot of work getting everything set up online. But we noticed once everything was set up, it seems to be flowing much better than we actually anticipated that it would. We've had some really good feedback from the classes. I'm now doing the 5th class now, and I've had actually very good feedback from all classes saying they've actually learned quite a bit. Now, obviously, in a trades environment, it'll never be as good as if we can be in class every day, but we're very quite optimistic, actually quite surprised that it actually has worked out as good as it has. It's probably a little bit more work for some of our instructors as far as the evening work and trying to keep up with the students as far as homework assignments and that, but once we get it flowing, it actually flows quite nice, and it's actually worked quite well.
Well, thank you very much, Dan, for your commitment to our student success, including Shelby, who's now back at the college after being a student in order to continue her own career in teaching and learning. So thank you, Dan, for your commitment, for your creativity, and for always being there for our students. I did witness them this morning in the teaching environment, and it was amazing to watch. I even learned about serial and parallel circuits. So thank you, Dan. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you.
Thank you.